right. Good afternoon, folks, or good evening, whatever the case may be on whatever side of the ocean you're on. I'm Scotty Roberts, and this is my co-host, Wendy Robertson.
Hello.
Hello. And so it's good to see you, Wendy. You look absolutely amazing today, as usual.
Thank you very much. And may I say right back at you?
Why, thank you. I was going for my ruffled American journalist look. All I need is a stub of a cigar in my mouth.
Whatever you're going for, it works.
I think, and yours always works. So
Thank you.
There. We've got the flirtatiousness out of the way. We've been on air before recently, and somebody, this is just a big flirt show. And it's like, we've known each other for the better part of 2 decades.
Yes.
We have a right to flirt if we want.
Well, and it's free.
And it's free.
Exactly.
There it is.
And it's good for the endorphins. So
it's good for, my endorphins are flowing now.
That's good. We like that.
So this is a show that Wendy and I have said, both of us, is long overdue. Because I've done radio for off and on for 20 plus years. And before I even met Wendy. And there were times we've done radio together, just snippets here and there. I've had her on my shows. We talk about stuff, and we talk all the time. And we say, we should really get together and do something and present it to the public.
Yeah.
And so we started doing that a bit on my show over here on the same network. We're, by the way, broadcasting on the Subspace Radio Network, and that's subspace.radio. You can go hear the audio version of this show. And I've got to put some of the disclaimers in here. We also broadcast on my YouTube channel. That's where if you want to watch the video simulcast with this show, you go find it over on youtube.com/Scotty Roberts. And sorry, we don't have a youtube.com/Robertson. We just haven't set anything like that up quite yet.
I think you're going to have to come up with hashtag Robertson.
Hashtag Robertson.
There you go.
And so it's Roberts, and it'd be
Roberts
-N Robertson. So Robertson.
Yeah.
That was Wendy's idea, and I said, that's amazing.
It's my little touch.
That's right. And so while Wendy is broadcasting from her sunny studio over there south of London, or is it north of London?
South of London.
I thought so. Yep. I keep mixing up. I keep wanting to put you north, and I don't know why.
North. No, south of the
north of London. South of London. You still got this the golden rays of the sun. I am here in my studio, which is a veritable dungeon in Wisconsin, which is a state. If those of you overseas, if you don't know where Wisconsin is, you can look at the map of the United States, central United States, right up at the very top, right next to Minnesota. So I'm roughly, we hop in the car, we're about 6-hour drive, maybe 7, up to Canada, the Canadian border, which doesn't sound like a lot, because we're all the way up here on the map.
But it is, yeah.
But we're about, where I am here, about 45 minutes from the Minneapolis-St. Paul area in Minnesota, the big metro area. So I'm out in the rural digs out here. So this morning, Wendy and I are like, when we do this show, we talk and it just comes naturally. There's a natural flow.
Yeah.
Yet when you sit down and you want to format a new show, you say, what the hell are we going to talk about?
But I think it also shows that our friendship and the banter and relationships we've had for all these years, albeit from a distance, because there's a lot of trust and respect for each other, and also our friendship has been very open, very honest with each other, and I think that's built in character and great. It's been built on good stuff.
Yes, and might I say, maybe stepping out a little bit boldly, I've said this before to Wendy. I said, if I hadn't met my wife and married her 18 years ago, Wendy and I'd probably be married today. I mean, we were just building a relationship back then. That's all. I only bring that up to show the level of friendship that is there. We've known each other. We've known each other intimately for a long time. And so I think that is a great basis for a show. We aren't just thrown together. You're over in England, we should do a show.
And also, it shows that regardless of the miles and the distance between us, you can have a really good friendship and relationship. As we were saying, relationships are the hardest thing to do in life. They are the one that will, regardless if it's friendship, love, whatever it is, it's the one that pushes your buttons and triggers. So we, our lives have been difficult sometimes. We've not always been able to speak to each other or see each other, but I trust you with my life.
Oh, and as I with you, and that's, I don't want to just mimic your point, parrot your point, but that's true. I trust Wendy implicitly, and
Thank you.
so that's a good basis for a friendship. It's a good basis for a relationship. Maybe we should talk a little bit about relationship stuff without getting too close or too out of the comfort zone.
Yeah, of course.
But before we do that, let's talk about what this show is gonna be all about. The grand plan, the grand scheme behind the show is to have two people who know each other well, that are friends, talking about the stuff of life, the stuff of politics, current events. Wendy and I have both expressed, I think, not extreme, but profound political and current event types of opinions out there. We're not quiet. In other words, we're not quiet about what we believe.
No.
I did political talk radio for a long time with people that Wendy knows as well, John Ward and Rocky Stucci. And we did, John Ward is from Hereford, for those of you over there.
Another Brit.
And so he gave us our European twist. Well, Rocky's he's an Italian from New York, and he's like, and I'm a Midwesterner over here in the United States. So we had some interesting views, and I've gotten to the place, Wendy, maybe you are the same. Answer this. I've gotten to the place where I don't really give a rat's ass what anybody thinks about what I express. I've gotten to the point of I'm not embarrassed to say what I say. I don't pull any punches. I'm not unkind, and I am not untoward or impolite, unless somebody's being untoward and impolite, and I'll treat them in kind. But I try to make my points professionally, politely, gentlemanly, and I don't know. How about you? It's over here. We've gone through all this cancel culture crap over here, and I'm like, cancel culture, fuck off, because I will say what I think and what I believe. How about you? How do you deal with that over there in Great Britain?
Well, I think it's got to the point of very much like that here. I mean, there's been the woke section of the world, and to a point still is. And you can't say that, you can't do that, you can't say certain words. I come from a particular part of probably South London, which is perhaps more, it has its areas where there may be lots of different cultures, and yet my town has about 280,000 people in it, and we seem to be getting on all right. We seem to get on quite well. There doesn't seem to be, as far as I'm noticing, any sort of like, you can't do this, you can't do that. It seems the borough doesn't seem to have that many problems. However, it depends where you go in the UK. It depends where you go, because some places are incredibly, you can't do this, you can't say that, what have you said that for? And I try very hard not to put my foot in it, but I'm human, I'll make mistakes. Words come out of my mouth before I even know what I've said, and I'm like, oh god, so I think we're all guilty of that, actually. But I think England is very much still we're struggling. Yeah, we are struggling with, I mean, for instance, everything is all about, you can't say this, you can't do that. It's all have to be equal opportunities, which is not. If you're disabled, if you're elderly, if you're, single, actually, those three areas tend to get quite, what's the word I want to use? discriminated against at times, quite a lot. I think that there's a more bigger proactive for, you know, the LGBT, you know,
LGBTQ XYZ crowd. Yes.
Sorry, my brain is fried today. And literally also, you know, for other sort of things. But I noticed the elderly and the disabled, and also the homeless at times, and also single people. Actually, they tend to get quite a lot of. I don't
really
think much.
Is marriage in Great Britain, is it held to a higher standard, or you are not a whole person if you're not married?
I don't think so. I think more of the case of like, I mean, I've been single for a long time, and you know, although I've dated on and off, you know, people look at you and they're like, "What, you're single?" And you're like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Well, how long have you been single?" And it's like a disease, you know, like we've all got three heads or something.
Right.
And I think if it's very much like that scene in Sex and the City where, like, you know, if you're a single woman and you go to a party, the women will hold on to their husbands and actually go, "Oh no, we don't want," you know, and you're actually thinking, "I'm not even interested in your husband, love. I just want someone nice to have a conversation with."
Right.
So I think being single, if we go back to the whole topic of relationships and discrimination, like a lot, sometimes you know, I've got friends who are single. They love being single. Mark would never stop being single. A friend of mine, James, would never stop being single, because they don't seek that one-to-one special bond. They don't mind having relationships and having something quite easygoing, but they don't seek that perhaps soulmate, deep connection.
Yeah.
So, and that's the hardest thing to find in today's world, because there are not many genuine people out there. There are people that say they know what they want, and when they get it, they do not.
Right. That's it. Well, it's the grass is greener syndrome. I mean, we get that everywhere. We get that in every walk of life. When you're single, it's like, maybe I should be with somebody because the grass is greener over there. When you're with somebody else, either dating or a permanent partnership or marriage, you always look and go, oh, well, that looks better over there, or that, or that, or that. I think we are humans. Culture aside, we tend to be fickle creatures. Or we get to be, some people like the stability of saying, this is where my life is and my relationship is, and that's where I shall be forever, and they'll be satisfied for the next 70 years. You look at some people's grandparents, been married for 70, 75 years. It's like, what, did you start when you were 8? But we were talking and chatting a little bit before the show, and about people that you know, and you brought up his name, Mark. Mark is somebody that prefers his single life.
Yes, he does.
Maybe there are occasions, I can't talk about Mark, but I know fellows like Mark that they love their single life. Now, they sometimes will slip out to me, I wish I had what you had. 18 years together with this. We've been married for 15 years. Tomorrow, as a matter of fact, will be my 15th wedding anniversary. We've known each other for 18 years.
Congratulations.
And well, thank you. And some people say, my single friend, I wish I had what you had. And I said, there's times I wish I had what you had, which is what you have, which is that single lifestyle where you are maybe a bit more carefree. You don't have children and family and house and home to be responsible for, that you feel obligated to. It would be nice to throw on just one day, say, throwing my backpack on and grabbing my camera, and I'm going for 4 months.
And it has its moments, but it's also incredibly empty and incredibly lonely. Like I have been divorced since 2000 and
like 4 or 5.
2011.
Something like that.
So quite a long time. And there were people that came into my life that were incredibly, well, I would say that's not actually true. There was someone very special that came into my life who was very important to me. Circumstances and timing was rubbish, and he will always remain important to me. I had other relationships that were not so easy, difficult, toxic ones. And then you actually think to yourself, having been there, done it, ticked it off, been divorced, which is it's a hard thing to go through. Like, as you know, a divorce it rips you at the core, and you learn a totally new identity. Like my surname is Robertson, as you know, but it's my married name, and I've never changed it. And the reason I didn't change it was because in the UK you have to go through leaps and bounds to actually change your name back, and secondly, it had become my identity. I had become Wendy Robertson.
Yes.
And so I liked her. I liked Wendy Robertson, and she became, I'm not sure how you might feel about it, but I became my own person. And so I love my surname, and when people go, oh, you're Scottish, which actually obviously now discovered I am, but I'm like, yes, I am, although it was my married name. But
how Scottish are you?
I know, well, exactly how Scottish. Still in the process of finding that out. But being single, what I'm saying is the dating world is brutal. It is brutal without any shadow of a doubt. And I'm sure there's many people out there who will be writing comments right now going, she's absolutely right, because you have players, you have the perverts and the completely oddbods, and then you have the people that are probably the most dangerous, the ones that actually think they know what they want, and then when they get it, or they pursue you, or they say it's what they want, then they decide it's not. And and Bob Marley has a quote which says, it's the cruelest thing is to love a woman, open up her heart, and then have no, what I can't remember the exact words, but have no interest in loving her, and I think that the dating world is very much like that. And in some ways, being married, you don't get to see that. And for us single people out there, it's like, it's not easy, because you talk to someone, you're like, oh, I've got to go through. And why is it that having a relationship is the hardest thing in the world? Finding that special person, that soulmate, is one of the hardest things to find in life, because at our age, we're kind of set in our ways. We've been there, done it, ticked it off. We know what we want, we know what we don't want, but at the same time, we still hope, live in hope, die in despair, of finding the soulmate, or the person that makes you smile like a 17-year-old. The person who makes you feel like the most important person in the world, and then doesn't break your heart. Because at the end of the day, that's, and so being married, I was married, obviously. I've been married twice. I've never hidden that in my life. I'm best friends with my first husband, and sadly not with my second. That was a very, very different situation and relationship, but I do not regret that in any shape or form. Great life lesson, and put me on the road with my best friend in Canada being such an amazing part of my life. So you know what, Scotty, the swings and roundabouts, like if you were to suddenly be single and you went out there, it is a minefield.
I haven't been single for obviously 18 years. And I was divorced from and like you, I've been married twice before this. I was married to a woman, Suzanne, back when I was a man of the cloth. I was in ministry through seminary and into ministry. I was in a conservative fundamentalist Baptist church, and her family was big in the Baptist church we were in. And we were friends in college, and we got married. And we were married for 6 years, no kids. And that marriage broke up. And we didn't talk for 19 years.
Wow.
And one day I get a call on the phone. And as strange as it seems, I recognized her voice. She goes, I'll bet you have no idea who this is. And I said, I'll bet I do. And says, is this Suzanne? Oh, yeah. And we got to talking, and she said she had gone through the 12-step program. Do you have that over there with Alcoholics Anonymous and all of that? And which I didn't know she was an alcoholic, to tell you the truth. when we were married, but she went through that program, and she said the making amends part, she said, you're the last person on my list that I was afraid to talk to because I didn't know what I would get. And she said, I just want to, and I didn't stop her, but I said, you know what? I said, that whole forgiveness thing. And I said, that's long done.
Yeah.
I said, all I want to know is if you're happy. And she's happy. She's happy. When we got to talking about our lives, and it was like, she said, I feel like I've got my best friend back, because we were best friends in college, that kind of thing. But so we were married. I was single after that for about a year. And I met Annette, who you know about in more detail. She was the mother of my first 3 children, my twin daughters, who are now pushing 31, and my son, who is pushing 22. And they're all, of course, all out of the house. And we were married for about 12 years. And then that's when we got divorced. That was a very necessary divorce, I got to tell you that. And at that time, I was granted by the court sole custody of my 3 children. So I was a single dad living at home. Talk about trying to have a dating life at that point. And so, it was pretty crazy for a while there, in and out people and people I liked and so on and so forth. And then Rainey came into that mess when my son was 4 and my daughters were about 13 and thereabouts. And she came in and was willing. It wasn't like, great, I found a woman to be a mom to my children. I wasn't looking for that. As a matter of fact, I ended up pushing her away quite a bit. I kept her at arm's length. Yeah, we can have sex. Yeah, we can have the relationship, but I don't want to get into a relationship. And I was kind of not. I was a bit of a dick sometimes, because it was like, I just don't want this. I don't want this anymore. I'm not doing this again. And when I finally gave that up, so now we've been married for 15 years.
It's horrible that our insecurities. I mean, what happens is when you have a bad relationship, as you know, it leaves scars and demons and insecurities with you. And we think, and we do get over it to a point. We do. Time's a great healer. As you say, I'm best friends with my first husband. He's a wonderful man, and I trust him like yourself with my life, and I'm very, very blessed. I've known this man. I was boy and girl next door, so we grew up together. He was from Belfast, and so it was a bit of a shock when he married an English girl, and whose dad was a copper, and the stepdad was in the prison office. It was kind of like, oh my God, but they made me feel so welcome, and I still can count them as family. They're wonderful people. But my second marriage, very difficult. There was infidelity, and it plays with your head, as you know.
It does.
And even though you move past it, it leaves its mark and it has demons. And then you meet someone you really like, and it doesn't matter how many times or how many years it is from there, and just that slight trigger is there, and you're just like, hang on a minute, I've gone from being completely normal to turning into the Incredible Hulk, and it's like, this is not me, this is my insecurity and demons talking. And I think that if only we were to take a step back and look at things and go, whoa, hang on a minute, we're coming from this at a different angle. So the people that leave the pain in our heart, they actually don't really move on with that pain and heart. Right. They just kind of move on.
They just move on. All right.
We get left with it. And I always find the more sensitive people tend to get it.
Not to be too maudlin or to turn our first show into this maudlin talk about relationships, I think this is necessary because many of us maybe think it's not okay to talk about that stuff or to express that stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of people going through that right now. I mean, I know people right now, as I said, on our last show, that are going through unrequited love. And when I do readings, the one subject everybody wants to know about is love.
Yes.
because love makes the world go round, and it's absolutely true. And we know what the wonderful feelings when you fall in love. You're happy, you're smiling, you're like, can't wait to see them. You're feeling, 5 years old or 17, whatever, you're feeling great. We all seek that out. And I think that there are so many people watching this right now or whatever that are going to say, I know where they're coming from. And I don't hear like there's a very famous coach called Matthew Hussey. He's from Essex, actually, I believe, over in the UK. And he's on TikTok and YouTube and WhatsApp and all that lot. And he talks about relationships all the time, and also about how to help and things like that. He makes it very funny, but he also makes it very serious, and his comments are like, they're massive, because there are so many people out there. Everybody wants to talk about it because we're all running around like headless chickens saying, I'm fine, I don't need anything, I don't need anyone, I'm fine. And even Mark has said to me, I am on my own, I prefer to be on my own, but I miss having somebody in my life. I miss having someone to chat with, have all that closeness with, but I can't handle all the full-blown living together and all that kind of stuff. So what we're actually talking is pretty relevant, because there's people out there now, I'm sure, writing down comments like that.
I could write down a list right now too. You know what came into my mind? You said something, and there's that old Nat King Cole song. You're familiar with Nat King Cole, I'm sure, where it says, when I fall in love,
it will be forever.
It will be forever, or I'll never fall in love, and so on. I first saw that in a movie about football players a long time ago, and it was a great movie. And the song is true. There's something, I called this up because I saw this on a friend's YouTube. I'm sorry, not YouTube, Instagram yesterday. And it says this. Now, think about this with yourself, Wendy, and all of you listening. It says, maybe you're not healing because you're trying to be who you were before the trauma. That person doesn't exist anymore. Because there's a new you trying to be born. Breathe life into that person. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. In tarot reading, which I do tarot readings like you do. Although I'm not as psychic as you are, I do the readings. And I say I do them as a positive crutch. I use the cards because I don't trust what's always in my head. Am I making shit up in my head? So I like to use the cards. And there's a card, it's the King of Cups. It talks about somebody who's been, and it made an impact on me. It's somebody who has these deep set wounds, but he keeps going on. He's gregarious, he's loving, he's gives of himself, but he holds back. There's a portion he holds back, maybe even subconsciously, because he doesn't realize how overtaken by his past griefs or his past wounds he has been. And so when you have this person and that's not the only meaning of the card, there's other meanings wrapped around it. But the first time I really understood that card was when it came up describing to a woman the man that she was married to. She says he's not a bad man, he's just distant. And there's all these things that what do wives usually say about their husbands? After a few years, he's distant. I can't get his attention. And so on and so forth. And I said, and that card came up for him. And she broke into tears because she knew this stuff in his past. And I said, you give him time. He's got to work on himself. But sometimes it's just the knowing that this is what it is. And I can't camp there. What's the other card that goes along with this? And this was in her reading as well. I want to say it was the 3 of Cups. I'm trying to picture it. The two
Which
children.
Which is a nice card, isn't it? The Three of Cups.
Yeah, not the three. I'm sorry, because that's the celebrating. It's the one
Mm.
with the two children. The nostalgic card.
Yes, I know which one.
Is it the
Yes.
4 or the 5? I'm not seeing it in my head right off the bat. Sorry about that. But it's a card that couples with that says, if you camp in the past, that past is going to govern you. And
Yeah.
so it's just like the devil card that
Yeah.
comes with those two. If you don't conquer your demons will conquer you.
And I think that one thing I learned as a counselor is that we're like snails.
Mhm.
As human beings, we're like snails. We carry all our stuff around, all our crap. It comes from the solar plexus, obviously, where we hold it all in. That's why we tend to go like this sometimes.
Sure.
When we're defending ourselves or feeling vulnerable, because we're like, no.
Right.
But we're like snails. We pile all the crap in the bag and we think, I'm fine. But fear, and I was talking about this today, false evidence appearing real.
And force evidence appearing what?
Fear, false evidence appearing real, which basically means you think your fear is real. It isn't. It's the fear. And I think in relationships, we get hurt, we get burnt, and we don't want to perhaps move on because we're like, just tentatively. But in the end, the only person we're really hurting is ourselves, because I saw so many people when I did counseling who were pulling each other apart, and you don't do this and I don't get this anymore, and what about that? And it's like, this was a couple that was once in love and thought their sun shined at each other, right? And I always say, when you meet somebody that you have a really incredible bond with, work on it. So easy to sacrifice it just like that and go, oh, because it brings up this, or maybe it's triggering me or whatever. We're all guilty of it, we've all done it, but we've really become a throwaway society, haven't we? We just literally throw away another one and bring another one, and all you're
throw
finding
away, walk away.
New person, you're bringing in a new person in. Same problems still going to be there, and we're healing each other. We are the best relationship we will ever have in our lifetime is with ourselves. It's the longest one we're ever going to have, and you are learning and healing for the rest of your life. You don't stop and go, right, well, I'm 52 now, I don't need to do that anymore. No, you're still learning, and you're going away. And we all make mistakes, we'll fuck up, we absolutely do. But I think you're right when you said with the tarot, when I read for people, they all seek that answer, as in, is there, is there a light? And we've all done it. I've done it. I'm like, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? So our heart, it's really weird because there are brain cells in our heart, which I discovered recently, and brain cells in our stomach.
I didn't know there were brain cells in our heart.
Yeah, and I believe the liver and lungs as well. I learned all this when I was quite poorly a couple of years ago. They were telling me. And it's very intelligent. They go together. You think it, the heart responds. Do you ever get really stressed out and then you have to run to the loo or something like that? It goes together. So what they say, you are what you think, or something like that. You have to put that positivity out there and go, no matter what, I'm going to try and see the positive in every situation, which is really hard to do when it comes to relationships.
I tend to be a very positive person. That doesn't mean I don't have my non-positive moments, which you could say are negative moments. There's times where I have felt, as you know me so well, I've had heart issues.
Yeah.
And I had heart surgery 6 years ago now, that is, just about. And a few minor things along the way. And but I have found that and this is when I've noticed that, if I get really angry or really worked up about something, which is rare, I don't just rage. I usually have a point to my anger. Being a positive person, being a peaceful, loving person, I'm still a guy. And, I will fight for what I need to do. When I fight, I'll put up my fists and I'll get into it. I can be a scrapper too. I'm no pushover, but there are times where something will really get to me, and I don't remember even what the incidents were. It's I'll raise my voice and I'll yell about it, and I'll get insanely angry, not to the point of losing touch with reality. I would never murder anybody because I'm pissed at them, but I'll yell because I've been pushed. It's usually when I'm pushed to that point and I've got a breaking point and I say, all right, God damn it, I'm done. I'm done listening to this. I'm going to give you what you're looking for. Here's the anger, and I'll spell it out. It's this and this and this. And I'm done, and I step back, and I'm like, man, I felt that one. And I felt that in my chest. I felt that in whatever. Oh, I thought I lost you.
It's
Sorry
not that.
about
It's just if a call comes in, I'm
Oh,
here.
okay.
I'm still here.
Yeah, that happens. So I can see how the mind and the emotions are attached to the heart. Is the organ that pumps the blood through your body. But why does it affect our hearts? It affects other parts of our body.
Because we are all sentient beings, and everything is connected, and so our thoughts are our biggest. They're either our demon in itself, but it's like when this doctor said to me, like, we do have, we're discovering the little brain cells everywhere, and I was like, really? It explains that when I get stressed, I cannot get stressed anymore because I have heart issues anyway, like yourself. Yeah. But if I do get stressed, I get a pain going up my arm and across my chest, and I get tightness, and it's not like I'm going to have a heart attack, but it's like not angina, but it's horrible. So I've always felt like sometimes you need to get it out of your system and rage with the person, but then think, oh my God, I'm going to suffer for that. But I think what happens is we tend to keep so much locked in, and we suppress a lot, and our bodies can only take, like, if you're in a relationship, say it's not something I talk about very often, but I was actually in an abusive relationship, and I kept a lot in for many years, and frustration, anger, fear, everything, and body has to do something with it. It has to do something with it, so it tends to come out in your health, or it'll come out and give you anxiety. And instead of actually recognizing, going, look, I know what this is. It's all those years of being under that. It's now the body's releasing it. It can cause us to be quite poorly. And that's why I've always said, like, it's better to talk about it, write it down, release it, or whatever you do, because if not, your body starts to suppress it and then comes out physically. And I think, for me, I tend to go quiet. I tend to keep a lot in emotionally. And my best friend always says to me, I know there's something up. And I'll be like, why is that? She goes, you're quiet. And what does that mean? Yeah. And I'm like, But having said that, I'm a fighter, and I'll go down fighting. And I'm a lover, not a fighter. And it's true. But when you said you get the chest pains, that's absolutely, it's stress. It's like frustration. It's like, and what do we do with it most of the time? We either go to the gym and get rid of it that way, or we dance, or shag, or whatever we need to do to get rid of it, if you have the opportunity to get rid of it, right?
Yeah. The shagging thing, it's like any port in a storm, or any reason. It's like, oh, I'm stressed today, or oh, I'm a little down today, or hey, I just won an award today, or whatever it is. But I'm a guy, that's the way we think.
But there's so many people that find it very hard to express as well through sex. I mean, that's the other thing. So many people are, when you have sex with someone, it depends on your take on it. If you just want a friends with benefits or anything like that, that's fine, because you're not looking for it. But when you get really naked with someone,
we're talking really
naked. We're not just talking naked without your clothes. When you're bearing your soul, or you're giving yourself to someone, that's very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And if we're not in our head, or if we're in our head too much, I should say, then what happens is the body goes, I'm not sure, or I have issues, whatever. Our brain, our mind is the worst, best computer in the world. It's also the worst, because if we go into our head too much, we can't express it. And, you know, sex is something that if you want it, it's very sacred, or it's just something to relieve, or it's just an expression of how you feel about someone. But it's a very natural process.
You know, I have found over the years, and I'm not revealing anything here, any things I tried that and I did that I shouldn't have done. I'm just saying for me, maybe this doesn't sound very guy-like. Guys you and I were talking the other day, and I said, women are like streams and men are like puddles. Women, all the emotion and everything that goes on in life, from love, sex, work, children, home, shopping, television, anything, it all is one big emotional stream. Now, I'm speaking in a generality, of course, because there's not everybody fits into that, but that is the general what's the word I'm looking for? Not biology, it's the way we're put together.
Yes.
Guys, on the other hand, we're puddle jumpers. We tend to compartmentalize. Not everything flows together. So the marriage box is over here, puddle is over here, the work puddle is over here, the children is over here, the sex puddle, the this and that. That's why it tends to be that guys more often screw around in their relationships, or infidel. I was going to say infidels, breaking fidelity in their relationships, but they compartmentalize it away. That's over in that box. It doesn't run in together. When a woman tends to break with her man and go with somebody else like that, that is outside their relationship, it's a big emotional thing for them. It involves all their emotions. It affects everything they do, again, in general. So men tend to be, oh yeah, that happened over in that other puddle. The point I was going to make with that is that for me, though, having sex outside my relationship, I don't know if I'd be able to do it. With somebody I didn't care about.
Absolutely, I'm the same.
I would have to care about that person. I would otherwise it's like, pardon the rawness, the raw vernacular of this, but I'm fucking a body. I'm not making love to a person.
It's nothing. Without connection, it's nothing. And I'm going to share with you, share to your viewers, my saying, before you get in my bed, you have to get in my head. The trouble is, what that actually says is that if you get in my head, you're in my bed. Actually, it doesn't work like that. But what I'm saying is, it means that you've intrigued me enough to want to know more, to want to learn more. And connection is everything. And I always say connection, communication, chemistry, and consistency. Those are my 4 things I think are so important, because without connection, you're just kind of like a body. And if that's fine, that's fine. Without the chemistry, the passion, passion is so important. And we're not always talking about you're jumping into bed with each other, but you can't wait to see them. You're drawn to them like a magnet. You fancy the pants. Oh my God, you look nice. All that kind of stuff. The chemistry is important. The communication, you've got to be able to talk to each other. You've got to be able to laugh your ass off with each other. There should be no taboos with each other, but it's not always the easiest thing to do, to communicate. Sometimes we get in our heads, we get in our demons or our insecurities, and we don't come full with it. And then the last one, consistency. I find that's the hardest for people, to stay the same, to stay the course. So many people say, I want this, I'm going to do this. It's like, for instance, when I got married second time, why marry someone when you had absolutely no plan to stay
together?
Together, as in faithful. And only 8 months into our marriage did I discover this. And it'd been going along the whole time. And it sort of plays with your head. So I think relationships, as I said to you right from the start, they are the hardest part. whether it's friendship, whether it's a lover, whether it's a wife, whatever it is, they are. And communication is so important, to actually sit down and go, okay, this is what I'm feeling right now. How are you feeling? I'm as guilty of not doing that as you're sure you are. And it's like, sometimes we want to say so much, but our fears and our demons and our past scars go, oh, no, 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 no. Or no, you want to run, you want to go, you want to get away from this. What happens if we actually stayed the course and actually worked through those demons? If, as long as this relationship isn't physical or abusive, that's what I mean. As long as the relationship isn't abusive or toxic or narcissistic or anything like that. Obviously, I'm saying, you know, a healthy relationship, but doesn't matter if there's problems or issues. If you really love each other or you really like each other and there's a real connection, isn't it more special to work on that than to actually move aside and bring someone else in where you've got to do it all over again? And it may not be the same, and there may be different problems, you know?
Right. You know, that, and you've really hit on something, because I think a lot of people walk around in life, in whether they're in a marriage or not in a marriage, they walk around in life, especially those in a relationship that's long term, meaning more than that first 6 to 12 months, you start getting into long-term relationship. And many times people will walk around, I know I do this, I'm guilty of it, there's things I don't say for fear of pissing off my partner, or not wanting to start a fight, or knowing if I say this, I'm going to start something. And we tend to, the point I'm making is, we tend to hold back. We start holding back things.
And that's
and
when
if some of us, if we're not holding back, we're letting it all out, but we're not being nice about it.
No.
We're not being happy about it. We're not being, hey, I'm sharing this with you. This is something that's bothering me, but I got to present it. How do we together work on this thing, or look to each other for help on this thing? Too many people who are together have isolated themselves from their partner.
Yes.
We look too much. We put too much into this whole notion of, I have to be an independent person, and I can't be good in my relationship unless I'm independent first. That, to me, that's the biggest line of psychological babbly bullshit we've been fed over the last 20 to 30 years. Because aren't you, when you're in a relationship, that relationship grows because you become interdependent. You're together. You are two independent people who are interdependent on each other. And so you build up so much isolation in relationships, that relationship falls apart because it's two independent people as opposed to two interdependent people. And I'm not talking about codependency or anything like that. So,
and I think if you're with somebody, why would you not want to build a life together and work it so it suits the both of you? But the point that you said, which I wanted to pick up, was that, and it's a quote that came into my head, we come into this world with nothing. We leave this world with nothing. We can't take anything with us. We can't take our money. We can't take anything. All we leave behind are memories, really. I mean, we might leave gifts and stuff like that, but that's by and by. We take anything we take with us, and they always say this in the spirit world, is love. Love is the biggest emotion. It's the strongest emotion that we take. And I always feel like, and I say to people that have come to see me for readings, or when I used to do counseling, be careful what you say, because once you've said it, you can't take it back. It's out. It's out the bag, you know, and you can never erase that from somebody. And sometimes we all tend to over dramatize, or we tend to like talk to this one and get that opinion, that lot. And sometimes the best person to have a conversation with, sorry about that, someone out there, is to have a conversation with ourselves. But if you know, like, when I don't have children, sadly I couldn't have kiddies.
I have 6.
I lost 2, and I would have loved to have been a mum. And I know I'll see them one day, which is fine, but it's like, I won't have any grandchildren. There'll be no photographs on my wall. And you know, I always say to my sister, you're so lucky, because they're going to look after you in your old age. And she says to me, well, I don't know about that, but being alone, going back to the point of being single right from the start, I don't want to end my time on this earth alone. I would rather spend the latter part of my life, probably the best part of my life, because I know myself a lot more and I'm a lot easier to talk to and communicate with than I was years ago. I'd rather spend my life with someone incredibly special, because, you know, life is really short. It's gone in an instant. And it's like, grab every opportunity of happiness, or grab every opportunity to have a laugh, or to bring light into your life, because some people come in our life and they bring a light, you know, which beams. Because when you leave this planet, the greatest thing you'll be remembered for is the deeds that you did, as in to help another person, or to make a difference in someone's life, or to make a difference in life, than what you left behind financially. Because my uncle who died, you know, he left some gifts for people and everything like that. And of course, that's a wonderful gift. But his legacy of the time spent together, the memories we shared, wonderful. They still feed me today. You know, I miss him terribly. And I often think, oh, if you were here, you know, John, I would chat away with this. And we don't realize how precious our time is. And so it's important to share that, and to say, don't just throw something away, or don't just give up on something. You cared enough to get into it, care enough to make it work, as long as it's healthy.
Well, you know what? I'm looking at the clock. We've only got a couple of minutes left as we wrap up. But something you said about John leaving things behind in his will and so on. My dad, who is in his mid-80s, almost his mid-80s, called me up last summer, and he said, you know, I'm making up a will. And he's very to the point, man. He's very simple about life. And so on. He had just lost his wife, his second wife of 55 years, 57 years, something like that. And almost as old as I am. And but he was, I think, feeling a bit down, and he started making up his will. And he said, you know what? He says, he called up, he says, what do you want? And I said, what do you mean by that, Dad? And he says, what do you want? What do you want of mine? In the will, I'm making up a will. And that being put on the spot like that, it's like, I want everything you have. No, I didn't ask that. I said, what it came down to, and it boiled down to, I said, look, Dad, I said, it's not about what I want. It's about what you want to give me. I said, that's totally up to you. I said, what I want, if I want anything, I want the things that will remind me and my kids of you.
Absolutely.
Things you've made, things you've done. He's a craftsman. Makes weapons, knives and daggers. He's got an anvil and all of that stuff, and makes muskets and things. I said, I want the things that remind me of you. My own son, who is pushing 22, we were talking about this stuff one day, and we were joking around about it a bit. But I said, is there anything of mine in particular you want in the will? And he said, I want that ring you wear, because I've worn this ring for 30 years almost.
Yeah.
And he said, I want your ring. I want one of your hats, my fedoras that sit up there. That's what my son told me. He said, this is what I wanted, yours. So anyway, I want to leave us all with one thought before you and I have to get out of here, and we don't have any more time. And that is this. Mark Twain once said, he said, 20 years from now, you'll regret more the things you didn't do than the things you did do.
Yep.
So cast off from the safe harbor. Set your sails to the trade winds. Explore, dream, discover. That's become my mantra for many years, because you don't want to get 20 years down the road and say, I wish I'd done that thing back then.
Yeah.
You want to get 20 years down the road and say, I did that thing, and here's where I am now. So we regret more what we haven't done than what we do.
Yes.
So.
Very good point, and I would be interested to see all the comments about. I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with us, and I'm looking forward to seeing them, to see what they say.
Absolutely, and me too. And so everybody, thanks for joining us for our first show ever together, other than interviews and things like that.
Yep.
And we'll be back next Tuesday with more, maybe a different topic, but let us know what you think. Comment down below the video here, and there's ways that you can contact us that will be in the end credits. And we hope to hear from you. So we hope you enjoyed yourself. Wendy, I thoroughly enjoyed doing this with you.
It's been a pleasure, Scotty.
It certainly has.
See you soon.
Folks, we'll see you next time. Have a good night.